we are still live, and this is Nigeria Decides. We've started receiving some pictures from our correspondents who are spread across the country and just feeding us with some information from Ikoyi, precisely out in Gregory's College, and from polling unit 047 Sunday Adigun Cafe Street, Alausa. We still have our guest in the studio to look at the anticipation of the Nigerians towards the election. Accreditation and voting has started, and it's already past 8 o'clock. We've heard that President Buhari has already been accredited and is also voting. But across the polling units, we have over 119,000 polling units that are expected to be active today. We also have 72 million people. I anticipated that over 72 million people would be participating in this electoral process. Now, Tui, we've heard in Alausa, Tinubu is expected to go there and cast his vote, but as at 7:55 a.m., just 5 minutes to the start of accreditation, there was no staff available. Yes, there was a canopy there, and later on there was one ad hoc staff noticed somewhere in the background, but nothing really seemed like was going on over there. Our level of preparedness. By 8 o'clock, we should have started.
Honestly, we shouldn't be seeing this kind of thing after a week postponement. And let's face it, Lagos, Ikeja, is a metropolitan open place.
5.5 million voters expected to turn out.
Yes, and in Lagos, Ikeja, in a place like that, we expect that the first place you're going to see people ready in terms of the INEC people ready to help to assist in voting will be a place like Ikeja. If this is happening in Ikeja, what do we expect to be happening in a place like Farasime at the border of Lagos, or what do you think should be happening at Bomiti, just far down in the riverine community? So it's inexcusable. We shouldn't be seeing this kind of dilly-dally at that point in a place like Ikeja. Well, let's see how it turns out. We just hope that as the day flows on, then we're going to see more improved participation, improved seamless functioning.
But still staying with the coordination, well, our reporter Felicity Ezewike says that, well, she noticed there was some level of security presence. It was relatively light, but there were security personnel there. So we think our security personnel are doing a good job, but would like to see INEC staff coordinate this whole process so that we don't just feel like we are lagging behind and not meeting up with the time.
Yes, on my way here, as at 5 a.m., I was already seeing security personnel at some particular spots, even around Victoria Island. So in terms of security, they came prepared, and I saw them with their tags as early as 5 a.m. But we still go down to the problem of logistics, even after a week. We are seeing people, when you are we're supposed to be in the studio for 7:30, and we had already started arriving by 5:36. You have to, this is how things should be run. INEC has to do better. In the governorship elections, we need to see these improvements. But then it's happened, it's sad to see that in the capital of a city like Lagos, you are resuming, you're trying to set up polling units at 7:50. I don't know why they have
8 o'clock should be 8 o'clock.
Exactly. It should be even before 8 o'clock. You should be waiting for voters, just like the security agents are waiting for voters. But then it's happened this way. Hopefully it won't be up to 9:30 or so.
Well, we hear that the president is in Daura and he's about to cast his vote. I think he's doing the first segment, which is the registration and the accreditation. We have live pictures from Daura. Would like to take those pictures. Yes, that's the president, as we can see on the screen. The president is casting his vote right now. So, well, something good is happening in Daura, I guess, as compared to Lagos. As yesterday, Rotimi Oyekomi, Chief Press Secretary to INEC Chairman, had said that, look, we are ready, we're on ground, sensitive materials, everything was on ground. We're going to start as at Wendy, but hey, look at us, we're in Lagos, and we're still having this situation of, you know, INEC officials not showing up as at when due. In fact, we also hear that the observers are already at some of these polling units and there's nothing really happening. So how are we certain that we would be able to hit the time that we set to finish
Exactly.
the elections today.
And it's still good to see that the president is living by example in this context. He's woken up early in the morning, 8 o'clock. He was at the polling unit to ensure that he got accredited, and he's casting his vote right there. We are seeing the image over there where the president is casting his vote. So everybody should turn out en masse and remember to communicate with us. Once you get your votes cast, remember to just hit us up with the hashtag #IJustVoted, hashtag Nigeria Decides 2019.
And don't forget to furnish us with videos if you see anything happening in your polling unit where you think it's not supposed to. Please feel free to put a picture or a video across, and please be careful while you're at it in case it's a bit too dangerous to do so.
And now we also know too that we are expected, you can vote with any of your fingers, but the note here is that there is no use of mobile phones inside the polling booth. So you can't take pictures when you are in there, but you can use any of your fingers to cast your vote. And remember that you have to ensure when you are going to cast your vote, because I wouldn't be able to cast my vote, but when you are going to do so, ensure that it doesn't cross into the other line. But with INEC now, how much do you think we would also see a coordination, talking about the level of preparedness? Yes, the fully able-bodied person to be able to go cast their votes properly with ease, even if we have a little bit of delay, but persons with disabilities and a whole lot more. Yes, we are told that we would have the Braille put in place. How do you expect this to also play out this morning?
Again, I feel so excited when the bill to help the disabled people was signed. I think one of my friends, quite a number of them were working on disability bill, and we've seen quite a lot of leverage and motion in that bill, exactly. Again, it is important that INEC should make provision for not just the blind, because some people, they've lost their limbs, and then, then for goodness sake, you must be able to create a way for them to vote, even if they don't have fingers. People can be born with defects, and they have all the finger, syndactyl, closed like that, and then they don't have fingers. So again, we must be able to up the recognition software, what we use to recognize person, take it away not just for fingers, but for all other features, including facial features, including the iris color or whatever thing, just to help the disabled, physically challenged. We don't like to call them disabled. Physically challenged people to exercise their own right. I expect INEC to be able to have designated places for them within an area to cast their votes, especially if
they say separate queues are going to be created for them.
You need to give them that opportunity. You need to make it comfortable for them. You need to make their own votes also count in a way. I expect that to happen at the level of INEC. And I'm also sure that quite a number of my friends are also following up on how to help the disabled people to cast their vote, because they are working a lot on that aspect of.
But if INEC has come out to say, well, they've already distributed and had all the sensitive materials stationed at the various wards and polling units where they are going to be utilized, we wouldn't like to hear reports that these people with disabilities are disenfranchised, especially the blind, because now we have the Braille feature which has been added this time around. But now, Najib, when we also look at how smart card readers work, our next preparedness. We've seen Daura, for example. We've had other instances when the president or a state governor or a major political actor cannot necessarily cast their vote because of the malfunctioning of the card reader. But this time around, Daura seems to be fair and fine. So we see a speedy process over there. Do you think that when we look at Lagos as well, we shouldn't expect the Nigerian factor to play? Because Daura is far away.
Yes. I think there will definitely be areas where there will be errors. I think there will be errors in some areas. I saw somebody's PVC, a friend of mine, I saw her PVC and it was mutilated in some form. She didn't take proper care of it, and she's going to vote. And like INEC has said, nobody without a PVC will vote. Nobody without proper accreditation will vote. So it may be, there may be some malfunction somewhere, but then in the generality of things, I think everything will move smoothly. And I like the way people are doing their accreditation and voting immediately.
Simultaneously.
Yes. The last elections I went for, we had to finish accreditation. At one point, there was no accreditation to do, and we waited for hours before voting started. Now, it's good that they're just doing accreditation voting. It makes things easier. So if there's any challenge, they'll have enough time to deal with it. I think the process looks very favorable.
Well, yesterday, INEC was being questioned about its level of readiness, how comfortable their ad hoc staff. You remember this time last week we were talking about youth corps members sleeping on the grass. And again, Rotimi Oyekami was the man who was fielding questions. He said that, you know, they have, to a reasonable extent, made sure that these corps members are comfortable. Issues that were not being addressed last week are being addressed right now, so they will all show up, they will be fed properly, they will be chauffeured to and fro, everything will be right. But then, how are we certain, because we have areas that are like on the water. Take, for example, if you're going to Bonny in River State, you have to go by water. All those sensitive materials must have gone beyond. Are we going to see any form of setbacks for people who are going to areas, even areas such as Borno and Adamawa, even Yobe states, which are far away from the rest of the world? How is it going to be for people who are working in those areas?
There are peculiarities in each of these areas, as it were, and the local people understand the peculiarities very well. Let me talk about the waterways that I understand a bit, even within this Lagos. You'll be shocked, the extent of creeks and estuaries in Lagos, quite a lengthy one and really difficult to reach in a way. But the people, you know, of course, INEC is deploying as much as close to 800,000 boats, if I'm not mistaken, along the creeks. So again, you have to leverage on the knowledge of the locals to be able to help you navigate all those areas. If you look at around the extremes of Ekpe and extremes of Badagry, you know, they're all on waters, and then could be quite difficult to reach. You have to be on speedboats for a lengthy period of time to get to those areas. So what happened now is that, you know, the locals understand, they help the security. Their security position is there, including even those that can cause problems, they're known already. So the local knowledge must be employed in such a way to help people you know, exercise their voting rights in those areas, for instance. For me, I am not really expecting so much challenge from those local areas, because all of us, we know ourselves. You can't then come and snatch a ballot box in that environment. We know you, I mean, but most of the challenge or problems we have in terms of voters and all those things and snatching of boxes happen in the cities or even at the precinct of the city. So that is where we need to put our eyes in terms of, you know, electoral malpractices. But those extreme areas, be rest assured that the locals are there also to help, because they want their votes. You can't.
Let's talk about logistics again. The process, the procedure as to voting. A lot of people are still not aware what they need to do. Apart from the fact that, you know, David had mentioned that you don't need to thumbprint above or outside the line. If not, that vote is invalid. But how many people do you think, especially again going back to the rural areas, are sure that they can? Because I have been at an election before, and trying to tell somebody or help somebody, it's almost illegal, because it's like you're trying to tell them who to vote for. So how do we reduce the number of invalid votes? Because we tend to have so many of those, and then, you know, somebody is out there trying to make their vote count, but because they're not well informed, we have so many invalid votes. How do we deal with that?
Honestly, a lot of voter education happens at the polling unit. A lot. There are people who will. It's like using your ATM when you see people at the machine and they're like, oh, please, I'm trying to. So at the polling unit, there's a lot of education there. Aside from the INEC officials also, there are people who would just tell you, if you ask them that, okay, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. But then I don't think INEC did a lot about voter education in terms of what to do at the polling units. Some majority of people are just going to find out today that it's immediately after accreditation that they'll vote. A lot of people didn't know. I saw a couple of videos made by individuals who put them out to show that, okay, this is the process you go through. INEC may have mentioned it, but serious voter education on that, I didn't see those materials. But then, like I said, when you get to your polling unit, it's not criminal per se for you to tell people that, okay, you get your paper, put it where you want to vote for your. Nobody will listen to you. A lot of people who are going to their polling, they know the party they want to vote for. You cannot confuse someone and say, put it on this logo or don't put it on that logo. They know, you just instruct them on how to go about it. They will handle the rest.
Well, we have
honestly, we think that aside from INEC, they've not been quite impressive in terms of voters' education. We expect the party, to also be involved in voters' education. You are going to vote for my party. This is what you should do. And that will help the...
As part of their campaign.
Yes,
right?
as part of their campaign. And then, thirdly, at the level of civil society that are involved in the electionary process, we should be directing attention so much to voters' education and the reduction of the invalid votes as much as possible. Exactly. In fact, some of those are faith-based organizations should also be engaged in voters' education. I'm not saying campaign for a party, but in voters' education. Please, if you want your votes to count, even before the sermon of how to get a miracle, post it in that. Listen, these are the...
I kind of think I've seen a couple of churches do those promos and say, get your PVC to
get
vote,
your PVC, this is how to vote. You don't need to put the logo of the party
there.
But just put those logos there. Put it here with 10 of your fingers, do this and this and that. So it's for all of us. We must be able to see ourselves, individual, society, different faith-based organizations and NGOs playing roles in terms of...
Well, Plus TV Africa has also done a little bit, putting the step flow as well. So we're going to bring you the step flow just there, looking at how to vote properly. But we also have to take a flashback to one of the speeches of the INEC chairman, Mahmoud Yakubu, and then also bring you some feedback from Falomo.
As I said earlier, yesterday I reported 95% completion of the configuration. I am pleased to report that we have now achieved 100% completion of the configuration. We are good to go on this score. Similarly, I briefed you yesterday that having moved the sensitive materials to the 37 states and the Federal Capital Territory, the forward deployment to the 774 local government areas nationwide will commence today, Wednesday, 20th February 2019, and be concluded tomorrow, Thursday, 21st February 2019. Already, 10 states, Adamawa, Anambra, Benue, Ekiti, Jigawa, Katsina, Ogun, Oshun, Oyo, and Taraba have commenced the movement of materials to the local governments today. Other states will do so and conclude tomorrow.
Well, now we were listening to the INEC chairman's speech that was from yesterday on the state of preparedness, and hopefully all of the things he has outlined would come into play today, despite the shortcomings or the late waking up, should I say, to
late arrival
to the electoral process. But hopefully we get things right. Well, quickly before we delve into conversations, we still have some feedback as well from Falomo over there. We have some pictures, and we would like to see what's going on in Falomo.
So there we have youth corps members who obviously are going to be serving as ad hoc staff. We can see the election materials there, actually, making sure that those materials are safe and ready, untouched. And we'll keep bringing you more live feed from the different polling units in Lagos and around the country as much as we can. And don't forget, you too can be part of our reportage. In other words, you can be a Plus TV reporter by posting short videos or pictures of what's happening in your polling unit. Let us know what parts of the country that you're sending it into. Please hashtag Nigeria Decides 2019, hashtag Plus TV Africa, tag Plus TV Africa. And if you vote, please take a picture of your finger and hashtag I voted. we want you to be part of the conversation.
Most definitely, and we see the NYSC core members there in Falamo. They are present on ground, despite the little bit of shake-up they also had last week, and all of those pictures that went viral. It's good to note that the conversation between the INEC chairman and the DG NYSC has been able to yield this good fruit, and we still have the culture of service from the NYSC core members.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We've seen, actually, despite the frictions that we had last week, we've improved. Definitely, there's no doubt that it wasn't like this last week. And then there's still room for more improvement. Like everybody agreed, we have 4 years to prepare for another cycle of election, and we shouldn't be this unorganized. I mean, at every, there should be milestones in the planning process. By this month, we should be having this. By this month, we should be having this. So, in preparing for the election. But again, in thinking about that, we know that funding is key to ensure that all those things are tidied and go straight. So, the whole governance, at least from the legislatures to the executive, should be able to tidy the budgeting process and the funding mechanisms properly, so that this can feed into the whole process of preparation and anticipation of challenges that may come. If that is not done and done properly, we'll still come back 4 years' time and be wondering whether we're going to postpone the election for 2 weeks.
No, but despite the good turnout of NYSC core members who we know are ad hoc staff for the elections, but are you also not disappointed that that the process is not coordinated? This is already 8:39 and we're still just seeing pictures of them just settling in instead of having settled and voters can start getting accredited.
Like we're seeing in Daura.
Of course, I'm a bit disappointed, but
we've seen Alausa now far
yes,
more.
I knew this would happen. We are seeing pictures from Daura because they knew the president would be voting there, so they took exceptional measures to make sure they were there with all the necessary materials. I think this is what they are supposed to do round the country in every polling unit. It's an election. There's a presidential election happening. Every polling unit by 7:30 should be ready. Well, I think we would learn lessons that would apply in the governorship elections. If not, then INEC will
Do we have to wait till the governorship? Because I was about to ask Mr. Tuyi that question, and you too. We have had several elections. We've even had opportunities to prep for this particular one within 2018 and 2017. Why do we always have to keep saying, oh, well, we'll do better in the next one? And
because these elections are already holding right now. It's already late. We're already seeing that people are not there. Staff of INEC are not at the polling units. They've not set up. We can't rewind time. So looking further, we would say, okay, in a week time or in 2 weeks time or so, let's see how they would show us that, okay, we had some struggles, but now we are set. From there, they can now determine how they will apply the formula they used there in the next elections. But then...
Do we ever learn?
Yeah, that's the key issues.
Do we ever learn?
What lessons are we learning? And of course, it's so, even listen, in the whole process of adaptation and evolution, the last group learn something, correct their genes, and get better. I mean, it's basic to survival. But here we are, we have to repeat the same failure over and over again. And you ask yourself the question, why should it be? Again, if you tidy all this thing truly, you will be seeing a lot of greed, self-centeredness, and me and I alone playing a humongous role in however we be as a nation, as a structure, as a group. Because truly, we know election was going to come. At a point, the staff from academic staff unions were not prepared to be part of it because they were asking for money, and that one was going to impact on the election. I don't know how they managed to take that challenge off. If they hadn't called off the strike, it would have been a different story as of today. At the time, we knew very well that the NYSC people were going to be ad hoc staff. Why can't that one be tidied up long time ago? we need that we're going to have a logistic challenge because now, yes, we're having quite a large number of political parties participating this time. We know that ballot boxes, ballot papers are going to be printed to contain all those things. What is the big deal? Honestly, sometimes I see that, what is the big deal in organizing logistics and preparing for election? Except you see, you know, and then now having postponed for a week, why honestly can't we have a seamless process that all of us say, okay, now we understood why you postponed? Because
delays from now would also affect how we collate all of those results. Well, we also have our correspondent, Felicity Ezewike, who is also on standby in Alausa to bring us updates as they unfold, but she quickly filed in this report. Let's listen.
Well, right now at polling unit 047, that's Sunday Adigu Cafe Street, Alausa, Ikeja, Lagos. This is also the polling unit for Bola Tinubu. As you can see behind me, a lot of persons are already here waiting for the exercise to commence. INEC is no show at the moment and it's past 8 o'clock. We're hoping that it will arrive as soon as possible so that this process can get started and Nigerians can begin to exercise their franchise as Nigerians. We'll keep you updated on what's happening. As soon as voting begins, we'll bring you up to speed.
David, as you can see there, they're still trying to put stuff together. It's not like they're really ready. As you can see behind Felicity, you could see the polling staff just walking up and down. It doesn't look like.
But do you think by any chance the holiday declared yesterday made people still feel like they are in a sleepy mood and not yet awake to reality?
It was in preparation for the election. It was so that you could put everything together and show up for the election early.
I think even those in Borno State have an excuse for not. If the people in Borno State had this kind of weather and this opportunity to come out, I'm sure they would have come out to vote. But here in Lagos, we've not had any hiccups when we were talking about security. So why not come out and vote en masse?
Well, it's...
Or is this voter apathy already playing out right in our face? Or it's just the culture of we'll come at about 10, 11, 12?
Exactly. I think people will come out, but then we Nigerians, we usually leave things till later. But I think people will come out. Even the polling staff, I think going into the future, they may need to work with the security agents. Like in 2015, one thing I noticed was that the security agents were out at about 5 a.m. Now I'm noticing virtually the same thing. Security agents, 5 a.m., they're already out. So maybe they need to coordinate better with the security agents to prepare and come out together.
All right, well, we have a celebrity. She's a movie star, Bimbo Akintola. She's an election observer. She has a report for us. She's on standby. She's reporting from the Ikeja-Alausa axis, obviously observing. She's going to give us a fair understanding of what she sees through her eyes. We'll get to find out what's happening in that area. Let's go quick to that report.
Ms. Bimbo Akintola, and I'm an observer. I'm working with the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NILS, and we're here somewhere in Ikeja, I won't give away the name, observing what's going on. There's a heavy presence of security. I've seen RRS, I've seen police, I've seen all sorts, but we're still waiting for INEC officials. They're not yet here. Hopefully they'll be here before 8 and we can start at 8. Some of the citizens in the area are actually hanging around waiting. Ready to vote, ready to make sure their choices win. I say to everybody that's watching, I hope you registered. If you didn't, then I'm ashamed of you. Because you're a Nigerian. You must have a voice in the voting. You must want, your candidate must win. You must decide that this is who's best for us. The only way we can change Nigeria is by voting.
And Bimbo said it right there. We are Nigerians. We are supposed to participate in this civic responsibility, and you have no right to complain about Nigeria if you don't go out there to cast your vote. But it is a shame to understand that we have an influx of personnel there who are there to cast their vote and other election observers just like herself, but INEC staff is still not present there from Alausa.
At the time that report was filed in?
Sad. Again, I think last week, or was it this week? Early this week, we heard that some materials belonging to Lagos was found in Anambra and something like that.
And Kwara State.
Could that have been one of the reasons that, in trying to move the materials back? I'm not giving excuses for them again.
That actually happened a day ago.
And then let me also tell you that quite a number of active young Nigerians that are very active on Twitter, social media, making noise, to actually have voters card. Those one with voters card, I have, younger friends now that are hanging out in the beach, enjoying themselves, and they listen, which vote? They've decided what they're going to do, which concern me. So again, the level of noise you hear on social media, the level of anger you see and ranting you see, it actually translates into participation. Now, it's for us to now be able to see how do we now move people from that level of, direct that energy to make them go out and insist on voting. Now, if INEC need help, in this area, they should be able to look for where they can get help. If the ASU, the crop of the university dons cannot really help them, they can actually reach out to the polytechnics, the College of Education, and be able to capture people to help them drive these things. Human resources is key if we have to, deliver those credible votes we're thinking of. Now, obviously, what it has shown is that the INEC has not upped their duty, as we are seeing in Lagos. I don't know elsewhere. As we're seeing in Lagos, because we've seen Falomo, nothing is happening there. We've seen Ikeja, people are hanging around, INEC are not there. So, I don't know, maybe as reports come from other places in Lagos, maybe it's going to be better.
But do you think that this trend in decline in turnouts, now let's shift the blame away from the INEC officials, now people even coming out en masse, because in 2007 we had about 61 million registered voters, only about 35 million came out. That was 57.49% the representation of voter turnout. And in 2011 we had 73,528,040, and just almost half of that came out, 53%. A shortfall of about 4%, and now again, in 2015 we had 67 million people get registered, and only 29 came out, so that was 43.65%. So from 57, we've come down to 53, and now we're at 43. Do you think we would have a shorter voter turnout this time around?
I am not, if we're going to look at the trending issues in the past months in Nigeria, I particularly was expecting...
Using Lagos as your case study, because we have 5.5 million voters who are expected to come out en masse today.
I am expecting that we'll see a massive turnout of people if we have to really look at what's been going on Twitter, on social media. But interestingly, I've also looked at that talk is cheap. I've also seen that talk is cheap. People that are making so much, will just even sit down and be drinking coffee and enjoying it.
But this is the stronghold, Najib. Don't you think this is the stronghold of main opposition, the two opposition parties? They are vying for Lagos State.
Yes. I believe a lot of people are going to come out to vote. In Lagos, a lot of people are going to come out to vote. I saw when people were registering to vote all over the place, from Lekki to VGC, people were really coming out to register. They were staying under the sun and the rain, and I think they will come out to vote. I think this year we'll see a larger percentage. I think one of the largest percentages we've seen in terms of our voter turnout was in 2003. 2003 there was a really huge turnout, but then in 2007 I remember then there was fear, even in Lagos. People didn't know what was going to happen. There were rumors in the air, and the things that happened with online Facebook messages going around saying there'll be violence, and from then on people have not been. I think 2003 people were not afraid of going to the polling units and getting killed or getting injured. People were just, it was a personal decision. Do you want to vote? Do you not want to vote? But going ahead from 2007 up till 2015, there's concern of, what will happen? I think, am I safe? So those things played a factor. But right now, I think people are very passionate about this election.
What do you think is fueling that passion? Is it that people are tired? Is it because of the economy? Or is it just that people are a bit more aware that their vote does really count and they have to make it count?
Not the awareness of their vote counting, because people are still doubting, but then it's about the economy and how Nigeria has been ruled for the last 4 years. I think there are people who say they've enjoyed the way the country has been going and they want it to continue that way. And there are a lot of people too that are saying that things haven't gone their way and things have gone very badly and they are going to challenge those people. So knowing that there are a lot of people who say they want to continue with the way things are going, the other lot of people who think things haven't gone well are also going to come out en masse. So I believe we're going to see a lot of voters coming out.
But you know, statistics doesn't necessarily lie. And, you know, it means that we're going to see a miraculous growth in statistics. Like he said, most of the people who are talking about these issues, most of the people who are ranting about the situation of the country, never really pick up that PVC. Some of them don't even have one. And those who have would rather use it as a form of identification.
But I beg to differ, because if we have 84 million and it's just only 11 million that weren't collected, we did fairly well if we are scoring above 80% in an examination. So whether or not, first and foremost, we should give ourselves kudos for reaching that threshold. But what is most important today is that we match up at least more than half of this 84 million. Then we can say that we have somewhat of an active participation, wouldn't you say, to you?
Again, sometimes I sat down and try to look at these election processes. Now, let's look at Lagos, for instance. We have more than 5 million PVC collected. Now, will I say that is democracy if, for instance, just under 1 million people voted to choose who's going to represent me? That's like 1/5. That's like 20%. Now, is there a way we can then tell the party that, for instance, you need to move your people to vote so that we can have minimum of 2.5 million voting in such a way that it's representing
at least
the aggregate thinking of the people? Because at the end of the day, it's still the rule of the minority. Because if I have 1 million people coming out to vote out of 5 million, that's still very, very minor number of people.
But is that not also peculiar to different locations? For example, Maiduguri today, whether we like it or not, there will be some form of apprehension by voters. River State, we all know, has always been a hotbed when it comes to politics. Whatever happens, I mean, the governor raised an alarm yesterday talking about the fact that they were going to assassinate him. There have been protests here and there. People, frayed nerves. Does the environment or the location also not affect the statistics? Because they might all have their PVCs, but then certain circumstances might prevent them. Or some people, family members will say, stay at home or don't come out, stuff like that. So how do we even match up with what David is saying?
Yeah, again, I agree that there are peculiarities. Okay, the first thing to ensure voters' compliance, and to drive voters' participation is security. Okay, security. Security is so key, so fundamental. And the second thing is that even after having voted, am I sure my vote is going to count? If people that are far, far more intelligent than me, and I was talking to yesterday, they said, okay, what's going to happen? I said, well, I'm not going to vote. These people, they've already, written their results. You see, that perception driven down will actually affect voters' participation in this election. So even educated people that should know, that should be able to stand firm and say, wait a minute, let us make sure our votes count, are telling me that the result has already been written. If those people can believe that, what do you think that the ordinary people on the street believe? But what will now happen at the end of the day is that those guys, those people will classify as thugs, I mean, in quotes now, will be the one who is going to come out because maybe they've been monetized, maybe they've been encouraged, maybe they are serving some certain interest, and then go and cast votes that's going to decide what's happened in this studio. It's going to decide what happened on Lekki Toll Gate and decide so many things in the next 4 years. So, for me, yes, peculiarity of environment. Then also the fact that the mindset of an average intelligent Nigerian, active Nigerian youth or educated Nigerian youth is such that, don't worry, these people, they've already decided who is going to win. The result is written already. If you're going to vote, it's a waste of time. I'm not going to vote. I'll just stay in my house. It took a lot of persuasion for me to convince 3 people yesterday that, I'm staying close to my voting booth, I'm going to vote, please go out and vote. So again, as what we can do to assure the credibility of the process is key to voters' participation. Because if I know that my vote is going to count, why not? I'll come out and vote.
Most definitely. We'll take a quick commercial break. When we come back, the conversation continues right here as Nigeria decides. Don't go anywhere.